A very good morning to all of you friends. Today we are going to study about the different types of blood vessels. Okay, what are platelets, their function, and what is lymph. So we are doing right now. Our topic is actually transportation in animals. We have completed about heart, how heart pumps, the systole, the diastole. Okay, the different chambers, arteries and veins, etc. Now our next component of the circulatory system in human beings include blood vessels. So let us start with the first one, that is blood vessels. Now, these blood vessels are tube-like structures which are present all over our body, and they supply oxygen and different types of biomolecules to every cell of the body, as well as also carry or remove the unwanted metabolic waste like urea, carbon dioxide, etc. Okay, so these blood vessels, they are basically of three types: the arteries, the veins or vein, and the capillaries. Okay? So the artery, the vein, and the capillary. Now these arteries, they are specialized for carrying oxygenated blood. The veins are specialized for carrying deoxygenated, that means blood rich in carbon dioxide. And the capillaries are present at the junctions of the arteries and veins, and these are present in the tissues. Okay, so the arteries, they supply oxygen to the tissues, so they breaks into arterioles and then capillaries. Again, capillaries join to form venules, and then they join to form veins, and they drain away the unwanted substances from the, you can say, body tissues. Okay, so if I draw a cells or a body tissue, suppose this is a body tissue. Now what will happen? Suppose this is an artery. So this artery will first break into arterioles. Okay, so in this way it will first break into arterioles. Then these arterioles will again break into capillaries, small chambers called capillaries. Okay. Now again these capillaries will join to form venules, and these venules will join to form veins. So in this way the arteries, they divide to form arterioles, arterioles divide to form capillaries, and capillaries join to form venules, and venules join to form veins. So these are the veins, these are the artery. Blood will enter from this end, okay, supplies oxygen and nutrients, and blood moves from this end, and it takes away or removes, help in removal of unwanted substances like urea, that is a metabolic waste, and carbon dioxide, that is released during the process of respiration. So that is the function of arteries and veins. So arteries always carry oxygenated blood, as well as veins always carry deoxygenated blood. What is the function of capillaries? They are present at the junction of the arteries and the veins, and they break into capillaries or smaller blood vessels at the tissue level. So because the cells are very very minute and small, so capillaries are the ones which actually supply nutrients to the body tissues. Okay, now these are the different types of blood vessels. Now arteries and veins, these are also different from each other on the basis of their structure. Okay, because the arteries, they have to carry oxygenated blood, and they have to supply blood to all over the body. So they are basically thick in nature. So they are made up of thick connective tissue, and their lumen is very very narrow. Okay, suppose this is the lumens, they are made up of thick connective tissue, whereas veins are made up of thin connective tissue. Okay, because veins, they carry the blood away from the tissues. So these have thick muscular wall. Arteries have thick muscular wall, but they do not have any valves in them. Veins have thinner muscular walls. Their lumen is great, bigger than the lumen of artery, and they have valves in them. So that is a very major difference. Okay, they have valves. Veins have valves in them. Arteries do not have valves in them. Okay, please remember. And what are capillaries? Capillaries are made up of only single layer of epithelial tissue. So it is made up of only single layer of epithelial tissue. Okay, so these are capillaries. That is the difference between arteries, veins, and capillaries. And one more exception, that is a pulmonary artery that carries deoxygenated blood, and the pulmonary vein that carries oxygenated blood. So that is an exception. Now let us see what are platelets. Okay, what are platelets? Let us see. Platelets, we know blood is actually made up of the three types of cells in blood. They are the RBC, the WBC, and the platelets. Now, RBC, they have hemoglobin in them, so they help in carrying or transportation of oxygen. WBC, they provide immunity because they are of different types. In class 9, you must have read granulocytes, agranulocytes. Okay, they are different types. They help in uh, invading, or they help in killing foreign substances like bacteria, fungi, that is called phagocytosis. So what is the function of platelets? So platelets help in blood clotting or clotting of blood. So the function of platelets is to help in clotting of blood, because platelets, they contain a chemical, okay, thromboplastin, that combines with fibrinogen that is present in plasma and forms a protein called fibrin, in which all the cells are you can say they are trapped. Okay, for example, suppose there is a capillary. Now in this capillary, suppose there is any injury, like there is a cut or an injury in any part of your skin or hand. So what will happen? Suppose there is some injury in a capillary. Okay, like this, there is an injury in the capillary. Then what will happen? Blood cells are present here. Okay, these platelets are also present. These platelets are like, when a plate breaks, it forms some platelets. So these are platelets. So there are some platelets which are present in blood. These platelets will come and they will assemble here in that place of injury. And then the platelets, they will start releasing an enzyme that is called thromboplastin. Okay. Now there is also plasma present in blood, because this is inside the capillary. I'm talking about inside a capillary. Like this is a capillary. Suppose there is an injury, this part of the capillary. So what will happen? All the platelets which are present, they will come and assemble at the point of injury. Okay. And they will release a protein that is called thromboplastin. This thromboplastin will combine with fibrinogen that is present in blood plasma, and it will give rise to a protein called fibrin. So this fibrin protein and all the blood cells, RBC, all the damaged RBC, WBC, and platelet cells, together they form clot. Okay. So what is clot? Clot is a solid, you can say hardened mass of damaged cells in which are entangled in a protein called fibrin. Okay, so what is the function of platelets? They help in clotting of blood. How is clotting of blood important to us? Because it prevents the loss of blood from our body during accidents, etc. Okay, so clotting of blood is very, very important. When there is any injury in any part of our body, then the blood should clot fast, so that it prevents the loss of blood, as well as it also prevents the entry of microorganisms. Okay, so blood clotting is very, very important. Now let us see what is lymph. Now sometimes what happens, suppose this is a blood capillary, and in the blood capillary different types of blood cells are present. Sometimes what happens, some of the WBC cells, they can simply ooze out like this, and then they join to form another capillary. Okay, or let me draw it nearby, some nearby another tube-like structure, which are called the lymph vessels. So sometimes what happens, these WBC blood is running, suppose in this direction. Sometimes what happens, the WBC cells, lymphocytes, they will leave the blood pathway of blood, okay, in the capillary, and they will join to form another type of vessels which are called lymph vessels, and only WBC cells will be present here. So that is called lymph. Okay, so lymph is another type of fluid connective tissue that originates from blood itself. So how is lymph formed? Lymph is formed from blood itself. How? Some of the lymphocytes, the topic itself is lymph. That means some of the lymphocytes are the WBC cells, special type of WBC cells, which sometimes leave the passage of blood and they enter another vessels which are called the lymph vessels, and they form another type of fluid connective tissue that is called lymph. Okay, lymph and the composition of lymph and blood more or less are similar, but they do not have RBC. So lymph is colorless whereas blood is red in color. That is the difference. Now what is the function of this lymph? It actually helps in transportation of fat. Okay, lymph actually helps in transportation of fat, and also it gives immunity to our body because the lymphocytes are present. These are the lymphocytes. So the lymphocytes are present. They help in phagocytosis of foreign substances like bacteria, fungi, etc. Okay, so lymph also provides immunity as well as lymph help in transportation of fat. Okay, but blood is carried in both arteries as well as veins. But lymph takes the blood. Okay, it takes the WBC from the blood and it drains only in the veins. That is the difference. So it is unidirectional. Whereas blood can be bidirectional, oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Okay, they can run in the arteries as well as veins. But in case of lymph, the direction of flow of lymph is only from the tissue to the veins. Okay, not back to the tissue. Like blood, the veins carry blood back to the tissue. But in case of lymph, it carries the lymph only from the tissues to the veins. Okay, so what is the function of lymph? It helps in transportation of fat droplets. Now, here we finish blood vessels, platelets, and lymph. Please go through the summary, write, and try to go through your NCRT book. If you have any queries, you can contact me. Thank you so much for watching this video.